The sleeper phone of this year is the Nubia Z50S Pro. It not only features a very flat kind of display, a large AMOLED display, good stereo speakers, large battery, but also a very interesting camera bump with a 35mm unique camera perspective, especially for a smartphone. And as it recently also released as a global version, I think it is good to revisit this good old device that I have here already since a few months. And this is a Chinese model, by the way. But nevertheless, let's take a look at the Nubia Z50S Pro after the updates. So let's get started. Do we see any improvements with the Nubia Z50S Pro's ultra-wide angle? Because this is the ideal vlogging site that we have here, or the only one that I really can use for vlogging, because the 35mm together with EIS would be a little bit too much cropped in. But what do you think about this quality? How good is it handling HDR? I'm using an external microphone, so how good is the external microphone of the Nubia Z50S Pro? This would be the other option, because we have 50 megapixels on the ultra-wide angle. We can crop to 0.7 times actually, which is roughly what we would assume as 24mm on other smartphone cameras. But this is wide enough, but sometimes it struggles with autofocus. And I think 4K 30 frames per second, you can see that the quality might be not the best. Nevertheless, I think for vlogging, this is still a very good camera. What do you think? And this is the perspective that you get with 35mm. You can see how cropped in this shot here is with the Nubia Z50S Pro, so not ideal for vlogging. And then, of course, selfies. We have this nice background blur because we have background blur mode here for the selfie cam, but it's only 1080p, and as you can see, probably we have no stabilization on the selfie cam. So this is something, Nubia, that for the Z60 Ultra you have to improve. Give us 4K of some sort, or at least stabilization in good 1080p, 60 frames per second at least on your device. Otherwise 4K I think would be good as well. It doesn't need this fancy bokeh mode here, but at least it should have some sort of stabilization. What do you think about this one here? Let's check some photos here with the Nubia Z50S Pro. This has been taken in summer, but nevertheless I want to show you what we have here. Great kind of main camera sensor, 35mm, that every object or subject that you want to photograph, you have like the possibility to get a nice background blur out of it, which is quite nice, and to have this depth of field kind of effect. Even like close-up subject like this rider, looks like Twix, because before it was called Rider here in Germany. Like in the 90s I think they changed it to Twix as well, and they have like a retro like version now on the market. Took this photo here, looks nice as well, quick in terms of like getting out of focus areas there, but nevertheless very, very sharp and good. Main camera sensor now today, as you can see here, works quite nice, has good HDR I would say, and details are also very fine. We have like very fine grain here as well, which is also quite nice, but details are nice. You can see a lot of details there, so HDR is working fine. Details are also very nice. We don't have any kind of condensation issues with the lens, so this is also working fine. The zoom lens, 80mm, sounds not good because we only have 8 megapixels here, but it's actually upscaling to 12 megapixels, and when I zoom in you can clearly see everything is readable. It's not like top class, top of the pops, but still good enough I would say in terms of details that everything is like visible there. And I wouldn't crop into the 8 megapixels so much, but with the normal 8 megapixel photo it looks nice. And here as well, as you can clearly see, there's also like this, I'm not sure what this is for, maybe for bird food, I'm not really sure. 80mm. As soon as you get to 170mm with the crop on the 8mm and upscaled 12 megapixels, it's a stretch, and you can clearly see this is something that I would not recommend using. Ultra wide angle looks fine on first glance. 50 megapixels also sounds nice. It's pixel binning it to 12, but it is sharpening a lot up there because nothing is really sharp there. HDR is working nicely, and the rest is I think also okay, and towards the edges it's getting a bit soft, like every ultra wide angle is doing like this. 13mm is pretty wide there. It's okay for such photos here, I would not use it. Where it works better is something with a object or subject in the foreground, and the same goes also for the 35mm with an object or subject in the foreground. You get this close-up shots, very detailed, nice background bokeh. Even with 80mm you get nice background bokeh if you get close enough. This is a new trend with newer smartphones to get closer with your tele cameras, and here you can also do this with the 80mm, and no issues there at all. It's a bit of not so detailed as maybe the Xiaomi 14 series or the Vivo X100 or even like the Honor Magic 5 Pro, but still pretty good for an 8MP. And this is where the ultra wide angle shines. Architecture like kind of shots like this here. No water currently because it's very cold, maybe it will freeze. You can see a bit of graininess and noise going on already, but it's not disturbing in any form or shape. It has fast shutter speed, good HDR, still this ultra wide angle, and I think the detail level is also pretty good for an ultra wide angle 13mm. You get very nice perspectives. Yes, it's getting a bit soft here towards the edges, but also the grain doesn't look too bad actually. It looks a bit more like film grain in this regard, which is quite nice. Selfies, forget about the selfies. They're okay, I would say, but as you zoom in, you can clearly see, yeah, it's 60MP. That is, but no, it's just not really sharp and not very detailed, and has problems with HDR in portrait mode. And yeah, HDR sticking is also, the stitching is also not working so good. So forget about the selfie cam for photos and videos actually. Videos, I think even the stitching is a bit better there. Interestingly enough, if they would stabilize it, it might be okay-ish kind of selfie cam at 1080p, but nevertheless I would expect like it to be in the next one at least 4K or stabilized full HD 60 frames per second. Here again another shot where I can clearly demonstrate to you the 80mm zoom is not the best, but it's still getting the job done. You get very close to this sign here, and even those little stickers on this sign are very clearly visible and readable without any issues, as you can see here. And even those little like details there, like this 5-hour detail there, those screws here and so on, is nicely visible. So it is an occasion. I'm surprised by this 8MP 80mm actually, still to this day. Even though in dim lit situations like this here, I want to photograph my dog eating, I'm not sure what he's eating, like apple, melon or something like this. And nope, yeah, it has its issues, even though the shutter speed was very fast. The ISO only 143. The rest here in the background is probably a bit sharper than the dog is, because it's still moving faster. When it comes to portrait shots, 35mm is the perfect kind of shot. I really like to use 35mm. There are others who are trying to imitate 35mm by cropping into the main camera sensor. They have enough capacity to do this, enough pixels and enough light to do this, but no one comes close to this perspective of 35mm, because crop in is not the real deal. The lens is a different one. You can clearly see it here. Much nice colors. It is not 100% sharp, but it gets the colors of my eyes correct, for example, which is hard to do. It's not like overexposing, it's not underexposing there, it's not adding too much contrast. I don't look like a ghost too much here. I think it's doing a pretty fine job, and this for all the portrait shots that you can imagine. Subjects, like I said, even smaller subjects look very fine, especially in the center. They have fast focus fall off, but still it's very nice. Even my dog or like objects here. Tantiem Mino, by the way, review hopefully someday coming. This is a pre-production model with some issues, so I'm still waiting for the final model to arrive. And my dog Timmy here, of course, as well. You can clearly see 35mm is the portrait lens, and this is the major benefit that you get with the Nubia Z50S Pro. And some will love it so much, like me, that they will take it for everything, for every trip or something like this. If you have to photograph some humans or some portrait shots, basically, that you will take this one here. And here you can see how sharp it can get, even like with the 35mm. The eye of my dog here, and the nose not sharp. The eye, it has some issues with dog autofocus or eye autofocus on dogs, where the Sony Xperia, for example, shines with eye autofocus on everything basically. But the dog here Usually it fails with the dogs. With human eyes it's working quite better, so if you have human subjects, then some of you have even like some robots or some dolls or something like this they photograph would work as well. And yeah, this is about it. Is it really? There's a special mode on the Nubia Z50S Pro. Let's discover this one. The Nubia Z50S Pro has a special street mode that can be toggled with this slider here, so it's not a mute slider. Also, you can configure it the way you want it, but if I open it up, you can see it is opening up a special street mode for street photography. So as you can see, also 35mm, 50 and 80mm, so it's not showing you some zoom levels, but the real equivalent 35mm, which is, I think, pretty awesome as well. And of course, if I just unslide it, you can see it's like going back to the lock screen. So very, very cool feature indeed. So now that you know about the street mode, here are a few samples of street photography. I like the street mode a lot. This is 80mm here, and this is the Fuji 100 color profile that I'm using here with grain enabled. You can see the grain all over the place. It looks very film-like with this good HDR. It's working at 80mm, it's working at 35mm. You get this nice film grain here, which I really like, and it gives like a kind of a special artsy kind of style to this whole image that I really like. The cool thing is you can do even more in the street mode. Let me show it to you right here. The cool thing about street mode is that you can go into configure here and choose the sharpness the way you like it. So if you don't like it to be too sharp, you can turn this off, and even the saturation can be tweaked here to be a bit more saturated or less saturated, just the way you like it, which is quite nice. So this is, I think, the most realistic colors that you can achieve in street mode. With all my custom settings, so a little bit less of saturation and a little bit less of sharpness, and still you can see how clear this tree looks like, how nice this looks like, and what kind of feeling you get out of it. Street mode also features tons and tons of different color profiles. I have FJ100, which is a Fujifilm kind of tweak. I can go to none if I want to. I have this one here, black and white, KD, which is Kodak one, I think, AV, maybe Aqua, I don't know, LM. You have various different ones. You can even import a few. It will open up the file manager and will search for cube files, and then you can import color profiles for your street view, which is quite nice, isn't it? It's Kodak 100. You can clearly see this is a completely different picture, warmed up picture. Actually, this is Kodak 100, this is Fuji 100. Fuji 100 way colder, more greenish kind of look. This is way warmer here, way too warm for this sunny day, way contrasty kind of look. And then we have this, I think, aqua kind of look. This is combining a lot of stuff. As you can see here we have nice kind of HDR still. Here it's a bit too warm, greenish, and this one is combining this bluish kind of hue with lots and lots of contrast there, and also this artsy kind of style. You can see people walking by, passing by. Very, very cool indeed to have this kind of flair, and you can just change the mood of the day, simply like having like a normal kind of winter day there, end of summer day actually, if people would not run around in such thick clothes, you would clearly see it. And this is the street mode. I really like the street mode, especially because it is meant for street photography, with even an AF setting that you can set the way you like it, so you don't have to really rely on the autofocus so much. Even though I like to rely on the autofocus, and I like the Fuji 100 actually the best, which is like this color profile here, which reminds me a lot of my big Fujifilm DSLM. So what do you think about the street mode? A few other things that we can talk about. This one is, of course, fingerprint reader is on board. You can also unlock it with your face. And we have nice animations, like super wallpaper-like kind of animations that you saw there. The operating system, iOS 13, has been updated quite frequently, actually. It is not always on the latest and greatest kind of Android version, but macOS 13 has got a lot of updates regarding the system to make it more fluid, to update the cameras quite significantly in certain areas, especially the zoom camera, for example, has been, and the closest focusing distance updated, but also the ultra wide angle I think is a lot better than it was before. And I'm running the newest software here. We have with macOS, I did an overview of macOS 13. It also arrived in the global version for the ZTE and 40 Ultra if you're interested in this. Not all of the features there, but most of the features are there. This one has multi-calibration features, so if you have a tablet, for example, you can just project your phone screen to your tablet and vice versa. I think share the clipboard, transfer apps, open files across devices, such things. Connected devices, NFCs on board. We have Z Smartcast. Nubia Share is there, which is compatible with Xiaomi Share, with Oppo Share, and Vivo Share, and all those others, because they are part of this consortium that is like working together on those sharing optimizations. Personalization settings, lots of stuff here that you can choose and personalize your system. Even the icon form can be personalized. The super lock can be personalized. The colors are here. Personalization is really key on this device here. Lots and lots of settings that you can choose. Lots and lots of features that you have, like extra features that you can use. One-handed mode, screen edge misdust prevention that you can set up. You can even set up the animation speed, battery optimizations. In regards of batteries and optimizations, you can turn off the battery optimization, very similar to Huawei phones, and then you get all the notifications without any issues. Google services I have installed on this one here without any issues. It's working just fine. This is the Chinese model again, and it will work probably the same way very fine on the global model. Maybe few settings like not included, like the sign-in option here that is exclusive for Chinese users only, because you have to register with a Chinese phone number, otherwise it doesn't work. And yeah, otherwise lots and lots of customizations. I like the options to have an app duplicator here, for example. The screen recorder is quite configurable, where you can see also the possibility to configure the quality of the screen recording. And we have lots and lots of gestures and motions that we can use. Double tap to wake the screen or close the screen or go to sleep. Three finger swipe for split screen, such things. Raise to wake, auto answer, flip to mute, and so on. Lots and lots of options that you can use here. You can even use gestures like this famous which is not working right now, this famous gesture here to turn on the flashlight on Motorola devices. It's also built in here in the settings, so very nice indeed. When it comes to software, this is top notch, even though it sounds like a generic kind of operating system. macOS 13 here running on the Nubia Z50S Pro is a pleasant surprise and a good one. The Nubia Z50S Pro, the Sleeperphone, the Underdog of 2023. We have good Dolby dual speakers, infrared port, we have a nice fingerprint reader, front-facing camera that is okay-ish. We have a nice power button, but also the slider for photography. Photography is the main highlight of this phone, especially with the 35mm main camera sensor that gives you a new perspective on your photos, especially smartphone photography. Ideally for portraits, if you want to photograph your friends and family, this one will rock. If you want a phone, a device that is very, very pleasant to use, has a straight, flat, big display, good stereo speakers, good battery life, good display, and everything that you need, even a good case, I would say. This case is like so glued to this device that I almost forgot taking it off. But this case is transparent. It's a hard plastic case, has this nice rim lines with silver accent. It's protecting the edges slightly, and it's protecting the camera bump as well quite nicely. This is a device to get. The cameras are the main highlights, even though I would suggest for the Z60 Ultra to upgrade the ultra wide angle and the telezoom. 35mm, maybe getting a slightly newer sensor might also help there. Otherwise, it's very pleasant to use. What I really like them to do, maybe if they have the chance, I know it is already very, very thick here, but if they have the chance to put in a variable aperture, this would help with this out of depth kind of effect that you get very quickly. And this might be even a good macro lens then when you have the possibility to step the aperture down a little bit. Otherwise, USB-C free support with display out support. If you have your Nubia Neo AR glasses, you can also attach them to this, and you have the possibility to use the user interface, watch your videos or your photos that you took on your Neo glasses, which is also quite nice. I like this device very, very much, especially when it comes to human subjects, photography, portrait mode. The only suggestion, maybe put a shutter button here on top like Sony does it, would really cool. I'm really looking forward to 2024 and the Z60 Ultra that hopefully will improve some of the downsides of this one. Otherwise, if you can get it for a cheap price, especially now for Christmas, even as a global variant with slightly different kind of software, you have a very, very good phone with long battery life, good speakers, good cameras. You will really like it. So this is my re-review of the Nubia Z50S Pro. Now that it is released on the global market, I think it is a very, very capable phone. The only thing that I'm a bit concerned is the software updates, because ZTE was not very good with their software updates. Just remind you, the ZTE Accent 40 Ultra, their flagship device, just now got Android 13 with macOS 13, which is like a little bit of slow in terms of update because we have already Android 14 out. Nevertheless, a very good device. If you have some questions regarding this device here, the Chinese variant, the global variant, or any other questions, just write it down in the comment section. That's everything for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Until the next time. Bye.